The movie opens with a thrilling motorcycle race between two riders speeding down the highway. One of them crashes, and the other rushes to help him. They head to a garage where their emotions take over, and they begin to kiss passionately. Suddenly, the woman notices an engagement ring on her finger, and she snaps out of it, realizing it was all a dream. The woman, Babi, had dozed off while planning her wedding to Kaio at the table. After getting up, she tried calling Kaio but got no answer. As she sat back down, Kaio appeared, startling her. She asked why he wasn't in Rio, and he explained he was back briefly to testify in court for a client's case involving a money laundering investigation. He reassured her it was routine, mentioning Tiago had the necessary records. He humorously added that Tiago was the second most organized person he knew after her. Kaio then surprised her with a beautiful gift. After she put it on, they kissed and made love. Afterward, she mentioned someone had offered to buy the motorcycle. Kaio was relieved, noting the sale would free up time for wedding preparations. Later, Babi went wedding dress shopping with Patty and shared a vivid dream. Patty reassured her that dreams about cheating don't necessarily mean a desire to cheat, but might indicate inner conflicts. Babi expressed her love for Kaio and commitment to their upcoming marriage. Back at her office, Tiago approached Babi, thanking her and asking if she needed anything. Babi was reviewing transactions Kaio had made with a construction company and expressed her desire to attend the upcoming hearing. Tiago advised against it, but Babi insisted, citing her responsibility as a business partner. At the courthouse, Kaio was running late, causing Babi anxiety. The judge entered, and Babi recognized him from her dream, shocking her. Kaio arrived, kissed her, and explained he had been stuck in traffic. After the hearing, Kaio informed them he had to head to the airport and quickly left. Later, Babi invited Tiago to her bachelorette party, despite his hesitation. Afterward, she took her motorcycle to the prospective buyers. Babi and her friends went to a strip club to celebrate her bachelorette party. While opening gifts, she discovered one labeled, "From Your Secret Admirer." Inside were photos of Kaio cheating on her. Shocked and devastated, she dropped the pictures and ran to the bathroom. Patty and Tiago followed, trying to console her, but she locked herself in a stall and refused to come out. Eventually, she emerged, saying she had somewhere to go. The trio headed to Kaio's office, where they convinced the front desk clerk to let them in, thanks to Patty's flirtatious charm. Once inside, Patty distracted the clerk while Babi and Tiago searched for evidence. Babi found a card celebrating Kaio's second anniversary with another woman and a ring. Enraged, she trashed the office, breaking bottles of alcohol in her fury. Despite Tiago's pleas, she decided to take Kaio's laptop with her. Back at her house, Babi was devastated and cried. She attempted to open Kaio's laptop, but couldn't guess the password. In her frustration, she burned all the pictures and gifts from Kaio. The next morning, Patty came over and insisted Babi needed to move on. She dragged Babi to a hair salon where Babi dyed her hair black, a change everyone liked. Later, at her office, Babi told Tiago she wanted to cut all contracts with Kaio. Tiago warned her that Kaio, being a liar, might retaliate, and that his business accounted for almost a third of their income, urging caution and not to act too hastily. As they were discussing, Babi's phone rang. It was Joao, Judge Marco Ladia's assistant, informing her that her folder was still at the courthouse. Babi agreed to come pick it up. Babi went to the judge's office, experiencing flashbacks of her dream as she walked. She introduced herself to Marco, and he did the same. Joao handed her the folder she had left behind. She took it and exited the building. Outside, she noticed a bike, and while she was looking at it, Kaio arrived. Seeing him, she felt shock and anger. Kaio insisted on explaining himself, but Babi was adamant they had nothing left to discuss. She accused him of betrayal, pointing out his affair during their 5-year relationship. Despite his pleas, Babi didn't want to hear his excuses. As their argument intensified, Marco, the judge, approached and asked if Kaio was bothering her. Realizing he was causing a scene, Kaio left. Babi and Marco went to a bar, where Babi noticed a woman staring at Marco. When she asked if he knew her, Marco excused himself and approached the woman. Arriving home, Babi found her door ajar and her belongings out of place. Hearing a noise, she closed the window and called Tiago. He came over, and they searched the house but found nothing missing, concluding it wasn't a robbery. Babi wondered why Kaio would do this. She explained her drink with Marco to Tiago, who found it strange and warned her to be careful. He reassured her of his support. Babi admitted feeling lost after her years with Caio. Tiago tried to comfort her and ended up kissing her, but she stopped him, and he apologized. The next day, Babi visited the Road Harpies motorcycle club. They welcomed her, noting it had been a while since a woman joined them. They rode to a cabin where the man next to her removed his helmet, revealing himself to be Marco. At the beach, Babi was chatting with a man when Marco suggested they watch the sunset together. She agreed, and Marco confessed he usually preferred solitude, but felt different with her. She described a dream of them riding motorcycles in the rain, ending in a dark warehouse where he got hurt. Marco then kissed her, but his phone rang, interrupting the moment. He stepped away to take the call, and when he didn't return, Babi called Patty to share the latest developments before rejoining the group. Alexandra offered her a drink, but she opted to walk by the beach. There she saw Marco emerging from the water, apologizing for earlier. Babi assured him she wasn't looking for anything serious, and suggested they try something different. They kissed and had an intimate encounter, unaware someone was recording them. The next morning, Marco kissed Babi as she slept, and left a note saying, "I had to go. One day, I'll tell you my story. Thank you for the best night of my life." She joined the others outside, and Alexandra advised her to keep her distance from Marco, calling him strange and mysterious. At her office, Babi received a video of her and Marco at the beach with a warning to stay away from him. She shared the unsettling news with Patty, who found it creepy. Despite the disturbing message, Babi mentioned the night with Marco had been good. Patty suggested filing a police report, but Babi was unsure who to report since she didn't know who sent the video. She speculated it could be Caio, his other ex, or the mysterious woman from the bar. Patty was surprised when Babi mentioned Tiago as a possibility, given that he was her business partner and best friend. Babi explained Tiago had recently confessed his feelings and kissed her, adding to her confusion. However, Patty reminded her that Tiago couldn't have sent the video as he had been with friends that night. Babi stopped responding to Marco and opened Caio's laptop, discovering a shocking document. The next day, she shared her findings with Tiago, revealing fake accounts not set up through their company. This implicated Caio in the construction lawsuit, confirming he had been scamming them from the start. Tiago was furious and wanted to confront Caio, but Babi urged him to stay calm and think strategically. She suggested keeping the laptop and consulting their lawyers before taking it to the prosecutor or Judge Marco. Tiago agreed. As they discussed, Babi received flowers from Marco with a note asking her for a date that night. Later, she got dressed and headed to Marco's house. They dined together, and Marco shared his story of becoming a judge. During the evening, Babi discovered a nursery in the house. Marco directed her to the bathroom and mentioned her phone had rung. It was Patty. Babi sent Patty a voice message, assuring her she was fine. Marco then pulled Babi to her feet, and they became intimate. One night, they heard a noise downstairs. Marco found a woman, Paula, who accused Babi of seeing her husband. Shocked, Babi questioned Marco, who admitted he was married. Paula revealed Marco had destroyed her life and warned Babi he would hurt her too. Feeling betrayed, Babi pushed past Marco, demanded he leave her alone, and declared she never wanted to see him again. She rode away on her bike, but was intentionally hit by a car. Waking up in the hospital, she found Patty, her family, and Tiago by her side. Babi confided in Tiago, believing the car had purposely run her off the road. Marco arrived with flowers, but Babi refused to see him. Outside, Marco called someone to request traffic footage. Once Babi returned home, Marco came by, insisting on explaining everything. He took her to the hospital and showed her his daughter, who was born with Emmanuel syndrome, a condition causing extremely weak muscles and developmental problems, along with malformations of her intestines and a heart defect. Marco revealed that Paula is Vita's mother and described her deteriorating mental health, which worsened after Vita's birth. Paula's erratic behavior led Marco to file a restraining order to protect Vita. Marco had to leave the pier that day because the hospital called about Paula trying to get to Vita. He admitted he had fallen in love with Babi and looked forward to starting a new life once his divorce was finalized. Babi, overwhelmed, asked for time to process everything and deal with work issues. Marco agreed to wait. Later, Marco reviewed footage from Babi's accident, discovering the car was stolen, increasing his suspicion someone was targeting her. At the office, Babi approached Tiago. He asked about the status of the laptop they had taken from Caio. Babi informed him that she had left it with the lawyers, but it would take some time to get results. She then suggested taking it to Marco's office, explaining that despite Marco being the judge on the case, he had proven to be a genuinely good person and could expedite the process. Tiago was initially hesitant but agreed, realizing they couldn't let Caio get away with his actions. Tiago went to see Caio and found him covered in blood. Caio explained men had broken into his house, tortured him, and warned him they were being watched. He begged Tiago to convince the men it wasn't his fault and that he hadn't given the laptop to Babi. Caio emphasized that what Babi knew incriminated them all and expressed his desire to escape the situation. Tiago made it clear that if they didn't eliminate Babi and the evidence, the crime syndicate would eliminate them. He reminded Caio that he had promised more money through the construction scheme, but neither of them had anticipated ending up working for a crime syndicate. Tiago accused Caio of knowing where the money came from, but having no problem spending it on luxuries. Tiago admitted to stalking, threatening, and even arranging for Babi to be run off the road to keep her out of their business. But she had proven to be stubborn and was now involved with the judge, Marco. Tiago stressed that with Babi's connection to Marco, they were in even greater danger, and it was a matter of her or them. Unbeknownst to them, Marco was listening to the entire conversation through a device planted under the table. Tiago went to pick up Babi, and as they were driving, Babi noticed they were heading the wrong way. Tiago pulled out a gun and threatened her. Marco called, and before Tiago could react, Babi answered and quickly told Marco what was happening. Tiago snatched the phone away. Marco immediately called Patty to get Babi's location, knowing they shared their locations constantly, and Patty provided it. Tiago took Babi to a forest, ordering her to get out of the car. They start walking, while Marco is getting directions from Patty and heading their way. In the forest, Babi and Tiago met up with Caio, who was digging a grave. Tiago handed the gun to Caio, ordering him to shoot Babi, but Caio couldn't do it. As they argued, Babi grabbed a shovel, hit Caio, and made a run for the gun. Tiago, however, picked it up first. He shot Caio, and just as he was about to shoot Babi, Marco arrived. A physical altercation ensued between Marco and Tiago, during which Marco was shot. As Tiago aimed at Babi again, the police arrived and shot Tiago from behind, saving Babi. 6 months later, Vittoria, Marco's daughter, was about to be discharged from the hospital. Babi and Marco were excitedly discussing this when Patty called to share that she was in a throuple relationship. The movie concluded with Babi and Marco riding their bikes together, embracing their future. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our video. Watch the next recaps on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.